Welcome, listeners, to another deep examination of the forces that shaped Skyrim's Fourth Era. Today we are documenting the actual organizational structure of the Thalmor Dominion's occupation apparatus in Skyrim, the ranks, hierarchies, operations, and enforcement mechanisms that made their control possible. Within the white marble halls of the Thalmor Embassy, a bureaucratic machine operated with terrifying precision. Third Emissary Rulindil commanded torture chambers where Nords screamed themselves hoarse. First Emissary Elenwen orchestrated intelligence networks that turned families against each other. Justiciars roamed Skyrim's roads with legal authority to arrest anyone, torture prisoners in secret prisons like Northwatch Keep, and enforce a treaty that banned worship of Talos, all while documenting every action with paperwork that made oppression appear lawful. This is the factual account of how the Aldmeri Dominion wielded administrative power as a weapon, creating a surveillance state where informants earned gold for betraying neighbors, where dossiers tracked every person of importance, and where the machinery of occupation ground forward with Dwemer-like precision until a variable named Dragonborn shattered their illusion of inevitability. And if you genuinely enjoy these factual explorations of Tamriel's dark history, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if you like the content. The carriage door slammed shut with the finality of a coffin lid. Thorold Greymane pressed his bleeding face against the bars, watching Whiterun's torches shrink into pinpricks against the darkness. The Thalmor Justiciar seated across from him, a wizard named Sanyon, third-class field enforcement, never looked at him, did not need to. The elven mage's attention remained fixed on the leather-bound dossier in his lap, quill scratching notes by wandlight. Subject exhibits moderate resistance to preliminary interrogation, Sanyon murmured, his Aldmeri accent clipped and precise. Recommend transfer to Northwatch facility. Interrogation chamber assignment. Third emissary approval required. Thorold tried to speak. His jaw would not cooperate. The Justiciar's warriors had been thorough when they had dragged him from his home 3 hours ago. They had shown his mother a writ sealed with golden wax, bearing the sigil of the Aldmeri Dominion, official, legal under the White-Gold Concordat, Treaty Article 7, Subsection 4. Thalmor Justiciars are hereby granted authority to investigate, detain, and prosecute violations of the Talos prohibition throughout all imperial territories. His mother had screamed. The Justiciars had not even acknowledged her. Sanyon closed the dossier. Thorold glimpsed his own name on the cover, written in elegant Aldmeri script, and produced a small crystal from his robes. It pulsed with soft amber light as he whispered into it words in a language that made Thorold's ears ache. Justiciar Sanyon, 3rd class, reporting to Embassy Central Intelligence. Subject Greymane secured. Estimated arrival at Northwatch, 4 hours. Requesting interrogation assignment and third emissary scheduling. He paused, listening to a voice only he could hear. Understood. Glory to Alinor. The crystal's light died. Sanyon returned it to his robes and finally looked at Thorold. His golden eyes held no malice, no anger, just the cold assessment of someone cataloging livestock. You are wondering why, Sanyon said. It was not a question. You worship Talos in your home. You believe your walls protect you. They do not. We have informants in every hold, servants who listen, merchants who report, even friends who understand where true power resides. Thorold's stomach turned. How many faces in Whiterun wore smiles that hid Thalmor gold in their pockets? The carriage jolted. Through the bars, Thorold saw they were climbing into mountains now, following a road that wound toward a fortress perched on the bottom cliffs, Northwatch Keep. He had heard whispers about it. A Thalmor prison where people vanished, where screams echoed through stone corridors that had once belonged to ancient Nords, now repurposed for Dominion purposes. The gates swung open without anyone manning them. Magical wards, Thorold realized. The courtyard buzzed with activity despite the late hour. Thalmor soldiers in elven armor moved with military precision, some practicing sword forms at training posts, others monitoring the walls. A wizard at a forge was examining what looked like glass weaponry, each piece inscribed with runes that glowed faintly in the dark. Justiciar Sanyon. A guard approached, saluting with fist to chest, the Dominion military standard. We were not expecting a delivery tonight. Last-minute procurement from Whiterun Hold. Political operative, suspected Stormcloak ties. Sanyon gestured at Thorold. Where is the watch commander? Inside. Processing takes place in the main hall, then you will take him down to the cells. The guard's eyes flicked to Thorold with something that might have been pity or hunger. Hard to tell in the torchlight. The interrogator has been busy. 3 occupants in the east wing. This one makes 4. 3 others. Thorold was not alone in here. Small comfort. They hauled him inside, warriors gripping his arms with the casual strength of those who had done this countless times. The main hall of Northwatch Keep had been transformed from Nordic Mead Hall into Thalmor Administrative Center. Maps of Skyrim covered the walls, each hold marked with colored pins, red for confirmed Talos shrines, blue for suspected sympathizers, gold for assets, people the Thalmor owned. Whiterun had far too many gold pins. A clerk sat at a desk, quill poised over a massive ledger. She looked up as they entered, her face serene. Name and charges? Thorold Greymane. Of Whiterun, House Greymane, Sanyon recited. Violation of White-Gold Concordat. Article 7. Active Talos. Worship. Suspected intelligence on Stormcloak movements. The clerk wrote. Each scratch of her quill felt like another lock turning. Duration of detention? Until Third Emissary Rulindil schedules enhanced interrogation. Could be weeks. Sanyon handed over the dossier. Embassy will send courier when scheduling confirms. Cell Block E, Chamber 3, the clerk said, without looking up. Next, they descended. Stone stairs spiraling down into earth that smelled of damp and something worse. Old blood, old fear, old despair soaked so deep into the rock that no amount of scrubbing would remove it. Torches lined the passage, but their light seemed to die before reaching the shadows. The cell was small. Iron bars, stone floor, a bucket in the corner, no windows. The door clanged shut, and Thorold was alone in the darkness, listening to the sound of other prisoners breathing in nearby cells. One of them was crying, soft, broken sobs that echoed off stone, 300 miles south, in a fortress carved into the mountains north of Solitude. First Emissary Elenwen studied the same report that had condemned Thorold Greymane. The Thalmor Embassy was a monument to Dominion power. Sprawling buildings of white stone and gilt decoration, guarded by wards that could reduce a battalion to ash. Here, in Elenwen's solar, the true work of the Aldmeri Dominion happened. Not on battlefields, not with swords, with parchment, with surveillance, with a slow, methodical tightening of golden chains around Skyrim's throat. Elenwen set down her wineglass, Colovian vintage, appropriately expensive, and turned to the elf standing before her desk. Rulindil, Third Emissary, and head interrogator for all Thalmor operations in Skyrim. His robes were immaculate, despite the late hour, his expression one of patient attentiveness. 4 new acquisitions this week, Elenwen said. Your schedule must be overwhelming. Nothing I cannot manage, First Emissary. Rulindil's voice never changed pitch, never betrayed emotion. The Greymane subject shows promise. Family connections to Stormcloak leadership. Brother serves directly under Ulfric Stormcloak. If properly motivated, he may provide intelligence on rebel troop movements. And if not properly motivated, then he serves as an example. Rulindil gestured to a map spread across Elenwen's desk, Skyrim, with threads connecting various locations. The Battleborn family has already been encouraged to publicly denounce the Greymanes. The social pressure weakens community bonds, makes the populace easier to govern. Elenwen traced a finger along the threads, red ones connected to Northwatch Keep, blue ones to informant networks, golden ones to assets, people who did not even know they were being used. And our primary asset, the one we have invested the most effort in cultivating, Ulfric Stormcloak, remains dormant but functional. Rulindil produced another dossier, thicker, sealed with wax-bearing emissary-level clearance marks. His rebellion continues exactly as projected, weakening the Empire without achieving decisive victory. Both sides bleeding resources. Both sides too focused on each other to prepare for our eventual annexation of the province. The incident at Helgen? Elenwen's jaw tightened. She had nearly lost their most valuable asset to an imperial execution. Would have, if not for the dragon. Still under analysis. The dragon's intervention was fortuitous for our purposes. Rulindil paused. The coincidental nature troubles me. Someone, or something, wants this war to continue as much as we do. Dragons. Elenwen allowed herself a brief moment of unease. Which brings me to our other priority. What progress on locating the blade known as Esbern? Our informant in Riften, a Nord named Gazur, reports the target is likely hiding in the Ratway. Interrogation of a Thieves' Guild associate is ongoing. The subject, Etienne Rarnes, has proven resistant, but everyone breaks eventually. Elenwen knew this to be true. She had watched Rulindil work. The third emissary approached interrogation like a master craftsman approaches fine jewelry, with patience, precision, and an artist's appreciation for his medium. "You have full authorization to use enhanced methods," she said. "The return of dragons threatens our strategic timeline. We need to understand what is happening. If the blades possess knowledge that could..." A knock at the door interrupted her. One of her guards stepped in, fist to chest in salute. First Emissary, Justiciar Ondolamar, reporting from Markarth. "Send him in." Ondolamar entered with the confident stride of someone who knew his value. Head Justiciar for the Reach, he commanded the largest concentration of Thalmor forces outside the embassy itself. His armor bore the insignia of field command, crossed swords beneath the Dominion sunburst. First Emissary, Third Emissary. He nodded to each. "I bring concerning news from Markarth. The Jarl grows increasingly difficult to manage. His cooperation with our Talos prohibition enforcement has become tepid." "Tepid," Elenwen repeated. "Quantify that." 3 shrine locations we requested he destroy remain standing. He claims lack of resources, but my intelligence suggests he is protecting local sentiment. The Reach has always been troublesome. Ondolamar placed a scroll on her desk. "I have drafted a list of alternative measures. Economic pressure, targeted arrests of influential Talos sympathizers, a reminder of what happened during the Markarth incident." Elenwen unrolled the scroll. The names on it represented Markarth's power structure. Merchants, priests, guards. Arresting even half of them would cripple the city's governance. Would also send a message to every Jarl in Skyrim. "Cooperation is not optional." "Approved," she said. "But coordinate with Rulindil. We need interrogations to appear legal under the Concordat. Everything documented, everything justified." "The Concordat," Ondolamar said with faint distaste, "grants us more than enough legal authority. It grants us what we have taken," Elenwen corrected. "The difference between power and perceived power is paperwork, Justiciar. Never forget that. The moment we appear to overstep, we give Ulfric's rebellion legitimacy. We give the Empire excuse to void the treaty. Everything we do must be legally defensible, even if the law itself is a weapon we have forged." Ondolamar bowed. Rulindil merely watched, his expression unreadable. When the Justiciar departed, Elenwen turned back to the Third Emissary. "Schedule the Grey Mane interrogation for 3 days from now. Let him soften in isolation first. Fear is more effective than pain." "Of course, First Emissary." Rulindil gathered his dossiers. "Shall I also prepare the briefing for Ambassador's Council?" "You are expected to report to Alinor next month." "Yes, include updates on all active operations, asset cultivation, intelligence gathering, Concordat enforcement statistics." She paused. "And Rulindil?" "The dragon. Investigation takes priority over everything else. I do not care what methods you employ. I need answers. You will have them." After he left, Elenwen stood alone in her solar, looking out the window at Skyrim's dark landscape. Somewhere out there, Ulfric Stormcloak plotted rebellion. Somewhere, dragons circled the skies. Somewhere, the Empire slowly bled to death. And here, in this fortress of marble and gold, the Thalmor tightened their grip. One arrest at a time, one informant at a time, one broken will at a time. If you are engaged with this account so far, hit that like and subscribe button. The mechanisms of Dominion control moved with the precision of Dwemer clockwork. Each Justiciar, each agent, each informant was a gear in a machine designed for one purpose: the pacification and purification of Tamriel, the subjugation of man beneath Mare. Elenwen poured herself more wine and returned to her desk, where dozens of reports awaited her review. Each one a thread in the web they had woven across Skyrim. Each one proof that the Thalmor had already won. The Nords just did not know it yet. The dungeon beneath the Thalmor embassy smelled of iron and despair. Etienne Rarnes hung from chains bolted into walls that had once been Nord storage cellars, repurposed now for the Dominion's needs. Every surface was stone, every sound echoed, every scream had nowhere to go but deeper into the mountain. Rulindil sat at his desk. A simple wooden table positioned where the prisoner could see him, could watch him write, and dipped his quill in ink. The scratching of parchment was the only sound besides Etienne's ragged breathing. "Let us begin again," Rulindil said, his voice carrying the patience of someone who had all the time in the world. "You claim you encountered an elderly man in Riften. You claim you do not know his name. You claim you never spoke with him beyond pleasantries." He looked up, golden eyes reflecting torchlight. "These claims interest me, Etienne, because they are inconsistent with the information Gazur provided, and Gazur has been very reliable." "I told you," Etienne's voice cracked. "I told you everything. There is an old man. He lives in the Ratway. He seemed crazy. That is all I know." Rulindil made a note, turned to the Thalmor guard, standing beside Etienne, a warrior named Sandarian, assigned to dungeon detail because he had the stomach for it. "Continue." The guard did not hesitate. Pain was a language the Thalmor spoke fluently, and Sandarian was a practiced translator. Etienne screamed. Rulindil wrote, "Subject maintains partial resistance. Psychological assessment. Breaking point estimated within 12 to 18 hours. Recommend continued isolation, followed by renewed questioning. Note: subject references old man, but claims ignorance of identity. Probability assessment, 40% truthful, 60% withholding information under duress." This was the work, not the grand speeches about elven supremacy, not the political maneuvering in Elenwen's solar. This, the methodical extraction of truth from unwilling vessels. The Third Emissary had learned his craft during the Great War, interrogating imperial prisoners in the occupied imperial city. He had been good at it then, he was better now. The door at the top of the dungeon stairs opened. Footsteps descended, light, precise. Elenwen's gate. She appeared on the balcony overlooking the torture chamber, her expression neutral. Rulindil rose, offering a slight bow. "First Emissary, I was not expecting you. The hour is late, but our work continues." She descended to the main floor, studying Etienne with the detachment of someone examining an insect. "Has he revealed the target's location?" "Not yet, but he will." Rulindil gestured to his notes. "He is protecting the blade," which suggests some level of personal connection. Once we determine that connection's nature, we can exploit it. We do not have time for slow exploitation. Elenwen turned to the blade. "Guard, Sandarion, fetch the prisoner something to drink. Water. Let him believe we are showing mercy." The guard hesitated. Mercy was not part of the protocol, but obeyed. When he left, Elenwen stepped closer to Etienne. "Listen carefully," she said, her voice dropping to something almost gentle. "You are going to tell us where Esbern is hiding, not because we will torture you, though we will, and Rulindil is exceptionally skilled, but because you are intelligent enough to understand mathematics." Etienne looked at her through swollen eyes. "You are one man," Elenwen continued. "Esbern is one man, but the information he possesses about dragons could affect thousands, tens of thousands. If we do not understand what is happening, if we cannot control it, the casualties will be catastrophic. So you have a choice. Suffer for someone you barely know, or help us prevent a catastrophe." "You are lying," Etienne whispered. "You do not care about casualties. You just want to kill another blade." "We want to kill all the blades," Elenwen corrected. "But this particular blade has knowledge we need. Once we have that knowledge, his death becomes a formality." She leaned closer. "You, however, can earn your freedom. Cooperation has value. Gazur earns quite well for his services." The name made Etienne flinch. Gazur, the informant who had sold him to the Thalmor for gold. Rulindil watched the exchange with professional interest. The First Emissary was employing the alternating pressure technique, pain followed by false hope, creating psychological dissonance that broke resistance faster than torture alone. He had seen her use it before. It was effective. Sandarion returned with water. Elenwen took the cup herself, held it to Etienne's cracked lips. He drank desperately. "There," she said softly. "See, we are not monsters. We are bureaucrats enforcing a treaty. The White-Gold Concordat is law. Breaking it has consequences. But following it, that has rewards." "The Ratway Warrens," Etienne gasped. "Southeast section. He is in a locked room, does not trust anyone. But he is there. That is all I know. I swear by the divines." "There are only 8 divines," Rulindil corrected, making a note. "But we will overlook the slip," Elenwen nodded to Sandarion. "Return him to his cell. Feed him. In 3 days, if his information proves accurate, we will discuss release." They would not release him. Both Elenwen and Rulindil knew this. Etienne probably suspected it. But hope was a powerful narcotic, and he had just had his first dose in days. As the guard hauled Etienne away, Elenwen turned to Rulindil. "Mobilize a capture team. 4 soldiers, 2 wizards. Riften is Imperial-controlled, so we have legal authority, but I want this done quietly. No public spectacle." "Understood. I will lead the operation personally." "No." Elenwen shook her head. "You are too valuable to risk in the Ratway's chaos. Send Justiciar Valandis. He has proven competent in urban operations." Rulindil bristled, barely, almost imperceptibly, but accepted the order. The hierarchy was clear. First Emissary outranked Third Emissary, Elenwen commanded, he executed. "I will prepare the briefing documents," he said. "What is our priority? Capture or kill?" "Capture. We need what is in his head." Elenwen started toward the stairs, then paused. "And Rulindil? Begin compiling a comprehensive report on our intelligence network structure. The Inner Council in Alinor wants documentation of our operations, every informant, every asset, every Justiciar's jurisdiction and success rate. That will take weeks. Then you should start now." She left him in the dungeon, surrounded by the tools of his trade, the chains, the implements, the blood-stained stone that had absorbed so many confessions. Rulindil returned to his desk and began writing new orders. The machine ground forward. 200 miles east, in the city of Markarth, Justiciar Ondolamar stood in the Temple of Dibella and watched his soldiers desecrate a hidden shrine. They had found it behind a false wall in the temple's lower chambers, a small alcove containing a statue of Talos, offerings of mead and flowers, candles that had burned recently. Evidence of active worship, proof of Concordat violation. "Remove it," Ondolamar ordered. "Everything. The statue goes to the embassy for documentation. The offerings are destroyed. I want this shrine erased so thoroughly that in 100 years, no one will remember it existed." His soldiers, 3 warriors and a mage, moved with efficient brutality. The statue toppled. Stone struck stone, with a sound like breaking bones. The flowers were ground underfoot. The mead poured out like blood. The priestess of Dibella stood in the doorway, her face pale. "This is sacred ground. You have no right. The White-Gold Concordat grants me every right." Ondolamar produced a scroll from his robes, unrolling it with practiced ease. Treaty Article 7, Subsection 6. The Thalmor maintain authority to investigate and eliminate all vestiges of Talos worship within imperial territories, including, but not limited to, shrines, temples, iconography, and associated religious materials. "Would you like me to continue reading, or would you prefer to cooperate?" She said nothing. What could she say? The law was the law, and the Thalmor had spent years ensuring that law was ironclad. "Who built this shrine?" Ondolamar asked. "Who maintained it? Who worshipped here?" "I do not know." "You do not know." Ondolamar smiled, thin, cold. "You are the temple's highest-ranking priestess. This shrine is in your temple's basement, and you claim ignorance. Fascinating." He turned to his mage. "Arrest her. Charge, obstruction of Dominion investigation. We will continue this conversation at the Understone Keep." The priestess' composure cracked. "Wait, please. I truly do not know. The shrine was here when I arrived. It is old. From before the ban, I did not have the heart to destroy it, but I never saw anyone use it. So you knowingly concealed illegal religious iconography." Ondolamar made a note in his personal journal, a leather-bound record he kept of every arrest, every interrogation, every shrine destroyed. The numbers pleased him. In the 3 years since his appointment as head justiciar of the Reach, he had eliminated 47 Talos shrines and arrested 112 violators. His success rate was among the highest in Skyrim, higher even than the justiciars operating in Hofengar, despite that hold containing the embassy itself. "I am placing you under house arrest," he said to the priestess. "You will not leave this temple. You will not communicate with anyone outside it. My soldiers will station guards at every entrance. If you cooperate, if you provide names of known Talos worshippers, your sentence may be reduced. I do not know any names. Then I suggest you remember some. Ondolemar gestured to his warriors. Secure the temple. No one enters or leaves without my POW authorization. Outside, Markarth's stone streets echoed with the sounds of Dwemer machinery. The city built into the ruins of an ancient civilization, now hosting a new form of oppression. Ondolemar walked through the market district, noting the eyes that tracked him. Fear, hatred, resentment. Good. Fear was respect without the illusion of choice. He reached the Understone Keep, where Jarl Igmund maintained his court. The Jarl's guards saluted as Ondolemar passed, a grudging acknowledgement of Thalmor authority, and he found Igmund in his throne room, speaking with his steward, Justiciar. Igmund's voice was carefully neutral. To what do I owe this visit? Another shrine discovered and eliminated, Ondolemar reported, located in the Temple of Dibella. I have placed the head priestess under house arrest pending investigation. I will need your court mage to testify that all seized materials were documented according to Concordat protocols. Igmund's jaw tightened. The Temple of Dibella is a sacred. The treaty supersedes local religious customs, Ondolemar interrupted. As we have discussed, repeatedly, he produced another scroll, this one bearing the Jarl's own seal. Your agreement to enforce the Talos ban in exchange for continued imperial support, signed 3 years ago, still valid. The Jarl looked at that signature, his signature, with something like hatred, but he had made his choice, had taken the Empire's gold, had bent his knee to the Concordat's terms. Now he lived with the consequences. My court mage will provide the testimony, Igmund said quietly. Excellent. Ondolemar offered a shallow bow, just respectful enough to be insulting. The Aldmeri Dominion appreciates your cooperation, Jarl Igmund, as does the Empire, I am sure. He left before the Jarl could respond, knowing the man would stew in his impotent rage, would probably drink too much wine tonight, would curse the Thalmor to his wife, and tomorrow he would cooperate again. Because the alternative was civil war with both the Empire and the Dominion, because Markarth was one city against an empire of Myr, because the Thalmor had already won. If this narrative has kept you listening, and you want more factual accounts from the frozen north of Tamriel, hit that like button. It really motivates me to create more Elder Scrolls content. Back at the embassy, in a chamber 3 floors below Elenwen's solar, a different kind of work was happening. The Intelligence Analysis Division occupied a suite of interconnected rooms filled with filing cabinets, map tables, and clerks who never saw sunlight. Here, every scrap of information gathered by justiciars, informants, and spies was processed, cross-referenced, and stored. Second Emissary Rulindil, a position most Nords did not even know existed, oversaw this operation. While Elenwen handled diplomatic relations and Rulindil managed interrogations, Rulindil commanded the network that made both possible: the spies, the informants, the surveillance apparatus that turned Skyrim's population against itself. She stood at a map table studying colored strings that connected dozens of locations across the province. Each color meant something. Red, active Talos worship. Blue, suspected sympathizers. Gold, confirmed assets. Green, surveillance positions. Black, targets for elimination. Update from Windhelm reported a clerk, an Aldmer woman named Tilwen, who had been analyzing intelligence from Stormcloak territory for 18 months. Our embedded asset in Ulfric's household reports increased military activity, troop movements toward Whiterun Hold, possible preparation for assault on neutral territory. Notify First Emissary Elenwen immediately, Rulindil ordered. If Ulfric moves on Whiterun, the war shifts. We need to ensure neither side gains decisive advantage. She made a notation on her own ledger. What is the asset's reliability rating? 73%. She is motivated by gold rather than ideology, which makes her predictable but not entirely trustworthy. All informants are liabilities waiting to be exposed. Rulindil moved to another section of the map, Riften, where dozens of strings converged. Status on the Esbern operation? Justiciar Volandis departed 3 hours ago with a capture team, expected arrival in Riften by dawn. Third Emissary Rulindil provided detailed intelligence on target location. And contingencies, if the target resists? Lethal force authorized as last resort, primary objective remains capture for interrogation. Rulindil nodded, already thinking 3 moves ahead. If they captured Esbern, his knowledge of dragons would be invaluable. If he died resisting, they had lost a source of information but eliminated a blade. Either outcome served Dominion interests. This was the calculus of empire. Every decision a balance of acceptable losses. "What about our northern assets?" Rulindil asked, moving to the Winterhold section of the map. "The advisor we placed at the college?" Oncano reports the Eye of Magnus remains under study. The college's archmage resists Thalmor involvement, but Oncano has gained access to their research. He believes the artifact may have applications for military use. Applications. Rulindil's expression remained neutral, but her mind churned. An artifact of unknown power, sitting in a college full of mages who barely understood what they had found. Tell Oncano to accelerate his timeline. If the artifact has value, we need to secure it before the college realizes what they possess. Understood. Second Emissary. Rulindil continued her rounds through the intelligence division, checking reports from across Skyrim. From Dawnstar, where a Justiciar reported successful suppression of a Talos shrine. From Falkreath, where an informant had identified 3 Stormcloak sympathizers among the Jarl's Guard. From Solitude itself, where surveillance indicated the Jarl's court harbored secret resentment of Thalmor presence despite public cooperation. Every report was a thread in the web, every thread connected to a dozen others. By the time dawn touched the mountains outside, Rulindil had processed 47 separate intelligence reports, issued 32 new surveillance orders, and flagged 11 individuals for Justiciar investigation. The work never stopped, the machine never slept, and somewhere in the depths of Northwatch Keep, Thorold Greymane sat in darkness, counting heartbeats, wondering if anyone would come for him. No one would. The Thalmor had made certain of that. His family thought him dead. His friends had been warned against inquiring. The Battleborns, longtime rivals of the Greymanes, had been quietly encouraged to spread rumors of his desertion, his cowardice. The social destruction preceded the physical. By the time Rulindil finished breaking his body, Thorold's reputation would already be ruins. This was the Thalmor method. Not just enforcing the Concordat, but weaponizing every aspect of Nordic society against itself, turning families against each other, making cooperation profitable and resistance costly, ensuring that even if Ulfric Stormcloak won his rebellion, he would inherit a province so fractured, so infiltrated, so compromised that Dominion control would remain absolute. The golden chains did not need to be visible, they just needed to be unbreakable. And in the embassy's highest tower, Elenwen reviewed tomorrow's schedule: 3 diplomatic meetings, 2 Justiciar briefings, and 1 very important report to compose for the Inner Council in Alinor. The report that would detail exactly how thoroughly the Thalmor dominated Skyrim, how completely they had infiltrated its power structures, how inevitable the province's absorption into the Aldmeri Dominion truly was. She smiled, sipping Colovian wine, watching the sun rise over mountains that would soon belong entirely to the mare. The Nords just did not know it yet. The ratway stank of sewage and desperation. Justiciar. Valandis led his capture team through tunnels that twisted beneath Riften like infected veins, following intelligence that had cost a man his sanity to extract. 4 Thalmor soldiers followed him, warriors who had trained for urban warfare, along with 2 battle mages whose detection spells painted the darkness with pale blue light. "Target location ahead," whispered one of the mages, a wizard named Thalmor whose specialty was magical tracking. Locked door, warded, defensive enchantments match Blade's signature patterns. Valandis signaled a halt. They had lost the element of surprise. The Ratway's denizens had eyes everywhere, and rumors of Thalmor in the sewers would spread like plague. But Esbern was trapped. The Warrens had only 2 exits, and both were now covered by Thalmor soldiers. "Breach formation," Valandis ordered. "Thalmor, disable the wards. Sanyon, prepare suppression spells. When we go in, I want him alive, but incapacitated." Third Emissary Rulindil was very clear about that. The mages began their work, weaving counterspells against Esbern's wards. It would take time. Blade's enchantments were notoriously resilient, but time was something the Thalmor had in abundance. Except they did not. The first indication something was wrong came when Thalmar's detection spell suddenly flared white. Movement, multiple contacts, coming fast. Draugr erupted from side passages. No, not Draugr, Ratway thugs, but moving with coordinated purpose. And behind them, something else, someone else, a figure in armor that seemed to drink the light, wielding power that made the air itself scream. The Dragonborn had entered the Ratway. Valandis had perhaps 3 seconds to process this before reality became violence. His soldiers engaged the thugs, steel meeting steel, in cramped tunnels where formations meant nothing. His mages hurled destruction spells that illuminated corpses in the walls, revealed the true horror of the Ratway's depths. And then the Dragonborn spoke a word that was not a word, that was force made sound, and the shockwave threw Valandis backward into stone, hard enough to crack ribs. Through pain-blurred vision, he saw his team disintegrating, saw Thalmor try to ward against the Thuum and fail, saw the Dragonborn move through Thalmor's soldiers like a harvester through wheat. Retreat! Valandis choked on blood. Fall back too! Another shout. This one was cold, was winter compressed into syllables, was the death of warmth itself. Ice spread across the tunnel floor. One of his soldiers slipped, went down, and the Dragonborn's blade found the gap in his elven armor. Valandis ran. Survival overrode pride, overrode duty, overrode everything except the primal need to escape. He fled through the Ratway, with the sounds of slaughter echoing behind him, leaving his team to die because reporting this catastrophe mattered more than their lives. The Thalmor had encountered something their intelligence network had not predicted, something their important dossiers could not classify. A variable named Dragonborn who fought for the Blades. Esbern listened to the sounds of combat fade into silence, waited. When the knock came, 3 slow beats, pause too fast. He recognized the Blade's ancient signal. He opened the door to find not Delphine, but someone wearing her desperation in their eyes. The Dragonborn, the one the prophecies spoke of. "Are you going to kill me?" Esbern asked, because after 30 years of hiding, paranoia was his only remaining companion. "I am here to save you," the Dragonborn said. "The Thalmor are hunting you. Delphine sent me." Delphine. The name was a ghost from another life. She is alive, and she needs your help. We need your help. The dragons are returning, and you are the only one who knows why. Esbern looked past the Dragonborn at the corpses in the tunnel. Thalmor corpses, the broken bodies of elves who had hunted him for decades. And he laughed, a broken, bitter sound that held no joy. "Then I suppose I should thank you for the rescue," he said. "Though you have just declared war on the entire Aldmeri Dominion, I declared war the moment I opposed them," the Dragonborn replied. "Now they will just know it." They fled through the Ratway together, leaving Valandis' failure bleeding into the stones. The report reached Elenwen's desk at midnight. She read it 3 times, each reading adding another layer of frost to her expression. "The entire capture team," she said quietly. "Destroyed." Valandis stood before her desk, his armor still bearing bloodstains, his composure shattered. The Dragonborn intervened. "First Emissary, we had no intelligence suggesting they were involved with the Blades. The dossier on them was incomplete. The dossier is now irrelevant." Elenwen set down the report with deliberate care. "You lost 6 operatives, you lost the target, and you revealed our hand to someone who can use the Thuum, a power we have no counter for. With respect, First Emissary, we need to classify the Dragonborn as a primary threat. Issue execution orders. Execution orders would make them a martyr." Elenwen's mind was already racing through contingencies. "No, we observe, we document, we wait for an opportunity where their death appears natural or justified." She paused, "and we ensure this failure does not happen again." She dismissed Valandis. The Justiciar would face disciplinary review, possibly recall to Alinor for re-education, and summoned Rulindil. The Third Emissary arrived within minutes, his robes immaculate despite the hour. "We have a problem," Elenwen said. She explained. Rulindil listened without interruption, his expression never changing. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. "The Dragonborn represents an existential threat to our operations," he finally said. "They are operating outside our intelligence network. Our informants know nothing about them. Our surveillance fails to track them, and now they have aligned with the Blades." He paused. "Permission to issue a kill order? Denied. If we move against them openly, we risk violating the Concordat. They have not technically broken any laws. Defending someone from arrest is not a crime if the arrest has not been formally processed." Elenwen's jaw tightened. "We need to be smarter, find leverage, family, friends, weaknesses. And if they have none, everyone has weaknesses," Rulindil, even dragonborn. She stood, walking to her window, overlooking the mountains. Redouble our surveillance on Delphine. If the dragonborn is working with her, they will make contact again. When they do, we will be ready. But even as she spoke, Elenwen felt something she had not experienced in years: doubt. The Thalmor machine was built on control, controlling information, controlling populations, controlling outcomes. The dragonborn was chaos personified, a variable that refused to be calculated, and variables were dangerous. 300 miles east, at the College of Winterhold, Ancano stood before the eye of Magnus and felt power singing through his bones. The artifact had been brought from Sarthal weeks ago, an orb of pure magical energy, origin unknown, purpose unknown. The college's mages had been studying it with academic curiosity, treating it like a puzzle to solve. Ancano knew better. This was not a puzzle. This was a weapon. He had sent reports to Elenwen, of course, had documented the eye's properties, its potential applications, but some opportunities were too valuable to share. Some power was meant to be taken, not requested. The Sijic Order had sent warnings. Mysterious monks appearing in spectral form, telling the college's newest student, the Dragonborn again, that variable haunting all Thalmor plans, that the eye was dangerous, that it should be sealed away. Ancano had other ideas. He waited until deep night, when the college slept, waited until the Archmage, Savos Aren, was alone in his quarters. Then Ancano entered the Hall of Elements and placed his hands against the eye's surface. It responded. Oh, how it responded. Magic flooded through him, not the structured, controlled magic of Aldmeri training, but raw power that tasted of creation itself, of reality's fundamental forces, of potential so vast it could reshape the world or destroy it. Ancano opened the eye wider, let its energy flow through the college's halls, let it establish a connection between himself and infinite power. He erected a barrier, a wall of pure force that even the Archmage could not breach. Savos Aren came running, as Ancano knew he would. The old Nord's face showed shock, then horror, then futile determination. Ancano, stop this. You do not understand what you are doing. I understand perfectly. Ancano's voice echoed with the eye's resonance. I am seizing power the Thalmor should have controlled from the beginning. When I present this to the Dominion, they will have the means to conquer all of Tamriel. No armies, no sieges, just this. He released a pulse of energy. It struck Savos Aren like a physical blow, throwing the Archmage backward. The old man tried to rise, tried to cast a ward. The second pulse killed him. Ancano watched Savos' body crumple, felt no remorse. The Archmage was a casualty of progress, a necessary sacrifice on the altar of Thalmor supremacy. Master Wizard Mirabelle Irvine arrived next, along with half the college's faculty. They tried to breach his barrier. Failed? Ancano laughed and unleashed the eye's power on Winterhold itself, sending magical anomalies into the town's streets. Let the Nords see what Thalmor magic could accomplish. Let them fear. But then the Dragonborn returned. Again, that same variable, disrupting another carefully laid plan. They carried the Staff of Magnus, an artifact Ancano had not known existed until it was too late. The staff touched the eye, and suddenly his connection to infinite power began to drain. No, Ancano channeled everything he had into maintaining his grip on the Batic eye. You cannot stop this. The Dominion will rise. The Mer will rule. The Dragonborn said nothing, just wielded the staff with grim determination, closing the eye piece by piece, severing Ancano's connection to godhood. When the eye fully closed, Ancano stood alone, just an elf in robes, facing someone who had slain dragons. The outcome was never in doubt. He died with Thalmor arrogance on his lips. The Dominion will never fall. The Dragonborn's blade proved him wrong. The news reached the embassy in fragments. Magical disturbance at Winterhold. Ancano dead. Eye of Magnus seized by the Sijic Order. Another failure. Elenwen stood in her solar, reading reports that detailed the complete collapse of their college operation. Years of cultivating influence at Winterhold, gone. Their advisor, dead. The artifact lost. And through it all, one name recurring like a curse, Dragonborn. They are dismantling everything we have built, she said to Rulindil, saving Esbern, killing Ancano. Next, they will infiltrate the embassy itself. Rulindil finished. Yes, I have been thinking the same. He paused. We have a mole in solitude, Malborn, the Bosmer who works at the Winking Skeever. Delphine has been seen meeting with him. Then we use him. Elenwen's mind calculated possibilities. If the Dragonborn wants to come here, let them. We control this ground. We know every passage, every ward, every contingency, and we have leverage they will not expect. What leverage? Thorold Greymane is still at Northwatch. We make it known, quietly, that we are interrogating a Stormcloak prisoner. The Dragonborn is sympathetic to the rebellion. They will mount a rescue. She smiled coldly. And we will be waiting. But even as she planned, even as the Thalmor machine adjusted to account for new variables, Elenwen felt the foundation shifting beneath her feet. The Dominion's control over Skyrim was built on fear and inevitability, on the certainty that resistance was futile. But the Dragonborn did not fear them, did not accept inevitability, and where one person defied the Thalmor, others might follow. In Northwatch Keep, Thorold Greymane heard new sounds in the dungeon. Combat, the clash of steel. Shouts, not the Thu'um, but battle cries. His cell door exploded inward, and through the smoke he saw a figure in armor. Can you walk? Who? Later. Move. They fled through Northwatch together, through corridors now filled with Thalmor corpses. Someone had attacked the prison. Someone had decided that Dominion authority was not absolute after all. Outside, in the cold Skyrim night, Thorold saw his brother Avulstein waiting with armed companions. We are going home, Avulstein said. The Thalmor will not stop us. Not anymore. And for the first time in weeks, Thorold believed it. Elenwen received the news of Northwatch breach with quiet fury. Another operation compromised. Another demonstration that Thalmor power had limits. She composed her report to the Inner Council in Alinor, detailed the losses, explained the setbacks, requested additional resources, additional authority. The response came 3 weeks later. Your performance has been noted. Take steps to stabilize operations. Further failures will result in your replacement. Elenwen crumpled the message, then burned it in her fireplace. The Thalmor were still in Skyrim, still enforcing the Concordat, still arresting Talos worshippers, still running informant networks, still maintaining their embassy and prison, but the machine had shown cracks. The architecture of fear had weak points, and across Skyrim, in whispered conversations and secret meetings, people began to believe that maybe, the golden chains could be broken after all. The Dominion's grip on Skyrim would endure for years, yet the Justiciars would continue their hunts. The dungeons would continue filling with prisoners, but the illusion of inevitability had shattered. And once people stopped believing in your invincibility, every action became a battle. Every victory became temporary. Every prisoner became a potential martyr. Elenwen stood at her window, watching Skyrim's mountains, and knew the truth. The Thalmor had conquered everything except what mattered most. They had conquered land, but not will. Authority, but not legitimacy. Fear, but not acceptance. And in the end, that would be their undoing.